Origins of Thornn. A former Morlock, Lucia Calasantos shares the same Iluranthropic Wercat or cat-human hybrid mutation of her sister, Maria. She has overcome a life filled with tragedy and violence, but strives to make amends for the sins of her past. She was initially depowered post-M-Day, but has through unknown means become repowered. Lucia Calasantos was the eldest of 4 children. A Hispanic family living in South Bronx, her real father abandoned the growing family when she was still very young. Her father was a drug addict, who left the family after the birth of Lucia's youngest sister, Carolina. Despite the fact that Lucia's father had been abusive, her mother, Marcela, was distraught when the police informed her that her husband had died of an overdose. Marcela blamed her children, in particular Carolina. She claimed the reason her husband had left was because, in her own words, she had one child too many. With her father now gone and her mother totally neglectful, Lucia, as the eldest of the 4 Calasantos children, had to take on much of the responsibility for her younger siblings. Unfortunately for Lucia, her father's death was just the first in a long line of tragedies that would befall her family. With the help of her sister Maria, she helped to raise her younger siblings, while her mother found a new relationship with a man known as Harry Bellinger. The relationship was violent, and Lucia's mother resorted to alcoholism. However, Harry's hunger for sexual attention did not wane when she had passed out in a drunken stupor, and he often began to paw at both Lucia and Maria. Although the two of them were still underage, he made sexual advances while their mother lay unconscious. It was a dark time for the Calasantos children. Mysteriously, young Mateo and Carolina died under tragic circumstances. Each death soon after the other, and equally suspicious. No one was ever suspected or prosecuted. One day, Lucia asked Maria to watch Carolina so that she could see her friend Jose Hidalgo. While Lucia was outside, she heard a scream. Lucia and Jose ran back inside to find Carolina at the end of the stairs, dead. They looked up to the top of the stairs to see Lucia's younger sister, Maria, smiling back at them. This was just the first of a line of mysterious deaths involving Lucia's family. The sisters also had a younger brother named Mateo, who one day fell off the roof after chasing Maria's pigeons that she held in a coop on top of the tenement building. Apparently, Mateo slipped over the ledge and couldn't pull himself up fast enough, though this was something Lucia always questioned. Part of her always wondered just how responsible was Maria for the deaths of Mateo and Carolina, and whether Maria had blamed their younger siblings for the death of their father as much as their mother had. It soon became evident that the Calasantos family carried the X factor, as Maria had already begun to develop her mutant physiology. Lucia was also a mutant, but her mutation is slower to develop than that of her younger sister. One night, after their mother had passed out on the sofa, Lucia left the house hoping to escape Harry's attention. However, despite her protests, he insisted that he was attracted by furry girls and would not decease. As he continued to force himself on Lucia, it was Maria who saved her. Maria's mutation was complete, and as the mutant feral she violently murdered her stepfather to save her sister. The two of them worked together to hide his body inside the drywall of an abandoned warehouse. Their mother blamed them for Harry's disappearance, and often lashed out. To get her revenge, Marcela killed Feral's pet pigeons. In a fit of rage, Feral then murdered her own mother. Under disastrous circumstances, they ran away from home. With similar physical mutations giving them extreme furry appearances, Thornn and Feral could not hide among normal society. Therefore they found a home among the underground tunnels of the Morlocks. They survived several attempts to eradicate the Morlock population, which only served to strengthen their anger and hate towards the outside world. When Mikhail Rasputin flooded the alley, Thornn held on to the young girl called Sarah, but her grip failed and the young girl was swept away. Those caught in the current were teleported into another dimension, to a place known as the Hill. However, the remaining Morlocks had no knowledge of Mikhail's teleportation powers or his plans for the Morlocks, and therefore she continued to search for Sarah and the others. Years later, Feral abandoned the tunnels and joined X-Force. They soon battled the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants who had combined forces with Mask and other surviving Morlocks, including Thornn. The two sisters fought violently, but Thornn was defeated and thrown back into the Morlock tunnels. In her search for the surviving Morlocks, Thornn contacted Cable and Domino for help. Together they performed the Ceremony of Lights, a ritual which illuminates the alley by reflecting a single beam of light along a series of intricately placed mirrors and shards. Once the light was lit, a ghostly apparition of Sarah appeared before Thornn. She informed them that she was not the sole survivor, but the other Morlocks were too afraid to be seen. The other Morlocks were too afraid to come out unless Thornn would perform the Morlock ritual called the Ceremony of Light. Having no one else to turn to, Lucia tracked down X-Force's Cable and Domino while on a date and asked them for help. Together, the three of them performed the Ceremony of Light, which involved placing dozens of mirror shards in such a way that the redirected sunlight would illuminate the Morlock alley. Sarah appeared again to thank them, but she said that the other Morlocks were still too afraid to come out. Thornn begged Sarah to stay with her as she was so lonely, but Sarah said she couldn't, though she promised to come back one day. After this, Cable offered Thornn to accompany him and Domino to Xavier's school, but Lucia declined, believing that it was her place to stay in the tunnels and await the return of her people. Thornn continued to live underground until her arrest some months later. Demolition work in the South Bronx had revealed a mysterious skeleton. Homecoming. Thornn's arrest was heavily publicized and therefore attracted strong anti-mutant sentiment. The Friends of Humanity attempted to hijack the armored police transportation with Thornn inside, but she was saved thanks to X-Force. The police officer in charge was Jose Hidalgo, a young man who was raised in the same area as the Calasantos family and had previously harbored a crush on Lucia while they were kids. He worked with Cable to ensure Thornn's safe transportation from the police station to the derelict remains of the Calasantos home in the Bronx. There they found Feral waiting for them on the roof. During the ensuing confrontation, Feral took Hidalgo captive to keep X-Force at bay. Forcing her through the property, she confessed to the murders of each family member, including their mother, Marcella. It had been the murder of their mother that forced them down into the Morlock tunnels. Both sisters were then arrested. Feral to be trialed for murder. Thornn was not indicted. Thornn later returned to the Morlock's tunnels and soon found herself to be not the only inhabitant. Sarah had kept her promise, as she and the other Morlocks returned. However, Mikhail Rasputin had taken them to a pocket dimension where time passed much faster. Growing up in the harsh environment of this pocket dimension and forced into constant battle against each other, the next generation of Morlocks had grown up to be rather aggressive. Sarah was now a fanatical terrorist called Marrow. Lucia must have felt horrible upon the realization that, just like with her sister, she had failed to save yet another innocent girl from becoming a psychopath killer. Still, she decided to stay around and secretly kept an eye on Marrow's activities, eventually alerting Cable to Marrow and her mentor, Callisto, planning a bombing at a Lila Cheney concert. Later she aided the X-Men as part of the X Corporation. She joined her sister and Warpath in Saudi Arabia, and assisted Wolverine when he rescued Dust. Thornn and her sister were among the many thousands of mutants who had their powers removed due to the Scarlet Witch's powerful spell. Lucia and Maria relocated to their native New York afterwards, where they tried to make a living. They were either approached or kidnapped by an agent of Romulus, who had the two girls taken to the Canadian Weapon X complex. Once there, their feline appearances were mysteriously restored, though they remained powerless. The amnesia both Calasantos sisters suffered regarding these events may have been a side effect of the treatment, though it was probably intentional. Romulus agents Wild Child had also arranged for Sasquatch, Wolfsbane, Sabretooth, and Wolverine to be in the area. However, both Thornn and Feral were seen in Wakanda, after being summoned by the Black Panther. Although no explanation has yet been offered, they both appeared to have regained their mutant powers. Together, they were given a mission to accompany Sasquatch, Wolfsbane, and Wolverine to search for Wild Child in the Weapon X compound. Apparently, all these people with feline or lupin mutations were part of something bigger, namely finding a successor to Romulus. Even though Wolverine wanted to deal with Sabretooth and Wild Child all by himself, Feral got in the way trying to help, ending up killed. Thornn appeared to be very upset at the death of her sister, whom as far as has been revealed was the last member of her family. Powers. Thornn's mutation is physical, giving her an illuranthropic physiology. Although she retains a normal head of hair, Thornn's entire body is covered in a thin layer of dark fur. She has also grown a long prehensile tail, razor-sharp teeth and claws. Part of her mutation has given her increased strength and agility in her muscles, allowing her to run on all fours, crouch low, and leap further. She has the proportionate strength of a wildcat, giving her heightened strength, speed, stamina, and reflexes. Much like Wolverine, she has hyper-keen senses. This allows her to see further and in darker areas than most people, as well as the ability to determine and track scents.